Psytrance producers, if you're looking for a very quick and easy serum technique for your intros and your breaks, this is for you. Check it out. So today's video is going to be a classic psytrance kind of effect that sounds like a ratchet or a mechanical percussion roll. I'm sure you've heard it before. I'll play it to you in a second. It's a great little trick to build tension and to create movement, adding that sort of hypnotic, psychedelic feeling to before a transition, before a drop, those kind of things. So, without further ado, let me play it to you in Serum or in Ableton with Serum on it, and you can hear what it sounds like. So I've got it in a track right now. So let me isolate that sound and then just solo that specific little sound. And I've used it a couple of times in my track. So let's play it. Let's, so I've used it 2 or 3 times, and in different nuances, little modulations here and there, but it's in essence the same sound. So let's play it in conjunction with the rest of the track. Hear it? Okay, so that was during the kick and bass earlier in the song. Let me just play a short snippet of the break where I've also used it. We'll bring up the volume slightly so you can hear it. All right, so just to give you an idea of what it sounds like I said, you must have heard this before. Now, they're not exactly the same thing, but that kind of effect. Really an effective technique to build tension. So let's start in Serum. I'll show you the steps that I took and how you can make this yours. It's not a static sound. So I've got a track here. I'm going to just solo that, and I've got I think it's 8-bar loop with just one MIDI note playing, so you can actually audition the sound. So this is what I have. I'm going to initialize or initiate the preset so we can start right from scratch. Okay, so where do I typically start? It's an oscillator A typically, and I'm going to use the sampling technique in Serum. So I usually just choose a percussive instrument for this specific sound. It could be a kick drum, it could be a clap or a snare, any kind of percussion. And let's just quickly look for a kick. And like I said, any kick really would do. Let's just take that one. I'm going to drop it into the sample kind of a type of oscillator in Serum 2. So what does it sound like? Good old kick, right? We've heard that many times before. So the first thing I do is I change the default one shot to a forward loop in the sample. It sounds like that. The important parts of this preset is going to be the scan rate, the loop end, and the filter, and of course some effects that we're going to add to it. So let's start with the loop end. So what is the loop end? It's basically just really manipulating where the loop ends. And if you modulate that through time, or through 8 bars in this case, you're going to find something that sort of ratchets down slowly in length as the loop gets dragged out. So let's just do that manually before we put an LFO to it. Okay, so that's the essence of it. And I typically start with a real, you start the loop over there, and we're going to, like I said, add an LFO to the loop end, and let's just make this LFO sew up so that it basically increases the length of the loop from where it is right now. So I'm going to take this LFO1, drop it on the loop end, and let's play it. Oh, the other important thing is that your LFO, the rate should mimic or mirror the length of whatever clip you're playing here on Ableton. Okay. And then what I typically also do is I don't like a straight line. I typically like the curved line kind of situation in the sew up. But there you've got it. That's a good start. And of course, you can start playing around with the loop end starting position. Right now, it's 8%. You can make this really short and see what that gives you. So let's leave that for now. 2-3% is probably fine. The other thing that's important here is the scan rate. So the scan rate in the oscillator sample kind of situation in Serum is just the control for how fast the cursor, if you want, moves through the sample. So obviously a 0 or a very short scan rate would give you nothing. So I press enter, there's really no sound coming because it's at 0 scan rate. But as you move this to become faster and faster, a higher percentage scan rate, you can see that makes a difference. So to start with, I usually just bring the scan rate down to 15% or so. Okay, and again, you can change the LFO curve to your liking. But those are the two things on the oscillator itself that I typically manipulate before I even do anything else. The other important thing is the filter. And we're typically going to use you can use a high pass, one of the high pass filters. Although I'm starting to really enjoy the multi filters, so I typically use an HB12 for this specific one. You've got to bring the frequency up quite a bit, and the drive, and the resolution. So let's just hear that, and then we can start playing around with the cutoff and the frequency and modulate that over time. Let's just make the scan rate a little bit faster. Okay. And we're going to, like I said earlier, modulate the cutoff and the frequency, and then we can play around a little bit more with the frequency and the drive and just keep that static. So I'm going to use LFO2 to start with on the cutoff. I'm going to make that a sew up as well. And I'll have to change the rate to be 8 bars, just like my loop here in Ableton is an 8-bar loop. And I'm just going to start this a little earlier, something like so. And let's do LFO3, also a sew up, also a 8-bar loop, and link that to the frequency. And we're going to start the frequency a little earlier as well. So something like that. So let's just see what that sounds like to start with. Okay, starting to come together. There are other things that we can add. You can manipulate the unison. You can make the unison something else and detune and so forth. Let's leave that for later. Let's keep this simple. So again, to reiterate, we manipulated the loop end through an LFO. We manipulated the cutoff and the frequency through two other LFOs, and we may, if we want to, also manipulate the scan rate. So let's just say, let's just imagine this. Why don't we put an LFO to the scan rate as well and bring that up, or make that slower, as to sort of play along with the loop end. So we may as well just say, why don't we just put an LFO, the same LFO that the loop end is on, to the scan rate as well, and just actually, no, we can't do that because I want to have the scan rate go from a higher value to a lower value. This is from low to high. So let's create another. Let's take this off and create another LFO. And in this case, we're going to go from a high to a low and grab and put that onto the scan rate. We're going to make that just about 0. That's the end point. And we're going to make the beginning point, whatever that is, maybe 106 to about 12. And you can always just click on those little controls to see roughly where you are. So 9 to 112. So let's just try that on. Okay, of course, we need to make this 8 bars as well. And you can see that it actually moves towards the 0 point there. All right, so very flexible. You can change this to your liking and to your song tempo and so forth. That's basically the end of the oscillator kind of manipulation. Of course, we're going to put some effects to it. And I typically start with an equalizer. And let's just do this and that. And I typically bring the gain up a little bit on both sides. And what we'll have to do is manipulate or modulate the frequency to move through the spectrum as well. So for now, I'm just going to use, without creating new LFOs, I'm just going to use LFO 1 for both frequencies, just to create some movement. I'm going to start this frequency a little earlier, to about the same as that one. And we can play around with the Q and the gain. Something like that. Bring this up a little bit. Okay, let's say that's a good start. I always have a delay in my chain of effects as well, and let's just do a dotted quarter is probably fine. I typically bring the frequency curve towards the higher frequencies. I don't want the lower frequencies to be delayed. It adds a little bit of, I'd say, confusion. But let's just try this for size. You can see there the delay starts kicking in, just to give a little bit extra movement to it. And what else? What else? We can, there's a bunch of different things that you can try. I typically bring in a flanger as well, because there you can actually use the feedback to add some psychedelic kind of effects to the whole thing. So let's just hear that. And you can obviously modulate that. Let's just make this another LFO and do this kind of movement on the feedback, and see where that takes us, and make that 8 bars as well. So there you have it. I told you it's going to be short and sweet. Very flexible technique. And if you are interested in this preset in Serum, I'm going to save it right now, what I've done, and I'm going to drop the link in the description. So feel free to download it and to play around with it in Serum. And I hope you're having fun. I hope you enjoyed the content. And like I said, give me a like, give me a subscribe, and you'll see more of this kind of low-hanging fruit scenarios coming your way soon.